Dude, look out! Oh!
Valkyrie Profile, famous JRPG franchise.
Fine. I'll just talk to myself.
The first entry is a certified hood classic, violent, technical, cropped, and deliberate. It featured the Valkyrie Lenneth, one of a trio of Valkyries, tasked with saving the world in the face of Ragnarok. The sequel's a late bloomer, but well-loved. It's puffy and complex, even compared to the original, but meaningfully built on the play established in the first. The player controls a mortal possessed by Silmeria, the youngest and most rebellious Valkyrie, in a quest to topple Odin himself. Enter Covenant of the Plume, the lone DS title. Well, that's the last of the classic titles. This must be it. Valkyrie Profile 3, featuring the third sister, Hrist.
What are you, stupid? Are you dumb?
Covenant of the Plume, which I'll be shortening to Coom, apologies, is an SRPG, which might seem strange at a glance, but Valkyrie Profile was always strategic and somewhat technical. Turns out that's not by mistake. According to this 99 dev interview, the original VP title almost ended up as an SRPG itself. That's fascinating considering Coom. The game's not your average genre copycat, not even close, and more accurately resembles a regular Valkyrie Profile game if you had to wander through a tactical grid to start combat. It's not an exploration of that original Valkyrie Profile strategy concept, it's a compromise with what the game became. That's really interesting! So, let us, you and I, become Covenant of the Plume enjoyers. Coomers, some say. Coom's a little different for a VP game, and it might as well be a spin-off, but since it's one of 3 extant games with that logo, and Lenneth shows up, I guess we're giving it a pass. Regardless, there are no playable Valkyries in the main game anyway. No, you get Wylfred. Hope you like Wylfred. Buddy Boy's a white mop swordy edgelordian, okay? VP was always dark, and arguably 1 is still darker and less sophomoric, but Coom here really brings the bleeding edge. The Valkyrie, she took my father away from me all the way to Valhalla. She's pure evil, and I won't stop until my howling blade bathes in Valkyrie blood.
Dude. Holy shit.
Imagine your dad dies and is recognized as a hero by the closest thing to an arbiter of justice in the world and gets to feast in Valhalla for all time. Would you have preferred he roast for all eternity? I can understand a little. His father's death shattered his mother's mind and he's thrust into the workforce, or the mercenary world, to make ends meet. Life sucks and then you die. Thankfully, Wylfred brought a friend, this happy little sunspot, Ansel. Be a real shame if the last single pillar of your support network died tragically in a "I killed my best friend during a demon attack by empowering him with a cursed feather I found to ensure our survival" moment. But what are the chances of that? And so, Wylfred runs away from the mercenary company, his friend's blood on his hands, to exact vengeance on Lenneth. Strap the in for this one. Everything seems pretty average, or at least up front. You click locations on a map, read some dialogue, stock up at the shop, and run through missions. There's a pile of side quests, like most SRPGs, but let's ignore that. The first thing you gotta know is that Coom is made to be played multiple times, like the other Valkyrie Profile games. It wants you getting the bad ending and starting over with your acquired knowledge and power, levels and skills, and all of that carry over. It's extremely easy to walk into impossibly difficult scenarios, overwhelming resistance from enemies, all of that bad stuff that normally makes players quit. It's not balanced for a newcomer or even longtime genre fans to just roll in expecting to win every fight with mechanical skill. But that sounds terrible! Yes, except that little thing Wylfred did to his best friend in the intro is the expectation. If you walk in like it's Fire Emblem, trying to reset every time someone dies, you're gonna close the game and never come back. Coom wants you killing your friends. I'm gonna say that again. Coom wants you killing your friends. Bleeding fucking edge, dude, yes! That's not exactly accurate. It's more that you'll be forced to draw on that mechanic if you want to progress at all. For now, let's talk basics. Coom kinda schmoovin' though? Unlike your traditional FFTs or Vandal Hearts, I guess, Coom's not about individually powerful units. You still want them powering up as much as possible, but the goal in basically any battle is to move your squad into position, surround an enemy, and mug them to death. Just really let them have it. Could the director be a fellow Yggdra Union fan?
Oh my god! The commander's been shot in the eye!
And of course, the point, like all of Valkyrie Profile combat, is to build up points to dump on special attacks. Okay, but that is a human being doing that. These aren't Einherjar. These aren't the souls of the dead empowered by the Valkyrie. These are men. There's something really funny about these commoners rolling onto the battlefield in a time of war and strife and peasant uprisings just to drop sick anime schmoves on anyone they meet.
We are gathered here today to mourn the death of John Johnston, who died on the battlefield of Omega Sword Art Rising Phoenix Desperado Strike.
Aside from basic attacks, which like any VP game are reorderable in a menu, you want to be powering up with passive traits and unlocking special abilities to increase your move distance. Lots of cool utility stuff, plus the ability to draw aggro. Why is the draw aggro ability stuck in a game like this? This genre loves directional attacks, breaking enemy formations, protecting squishier, high-damage units. Why is it stuck in the Valkyrie Profile spin-off game? No, it's fine. I'll be staring at walls for a while. Now, I've been trying to get into this thing, but Coom's a little strained. It's edging up to the greats, but not quite getting there. Why is that? Well, the stages are mostly varied with little walls and obstacles. Elevation isn't super important, but it gets used for choke points on occasion. The problem is when the CPU doesn't do anything or can't attack, and you can barely attack, and you're just trying to push through a roadblock, and the game goes from fast and frenetic to annoying in a blink. You could probably plan around moments like this if Coom were an average SRPG, but there aren't any generic units to speak of. Okay, I can't load up on archers. It's a Valkyrie Profile game. Every character has a profile, and most of them are locked into melee combat. And that's fun because the stages, though varied, are usually really big. Like really, really big, or full of hazards, or both large and full of movement impeding snow. So many missions are absolute crawls, ridiculous slogs through nonsense so you can pile on and beat ass, and that'd be doable. I can see the designer vision, make him trudge through hell, so when they open a can on the last dude standing, it'll feel amazing. Is what I would say if I were imagining how this game feels instead of experiencing how it actually feels in real time. You know, if you had to travel in FFT, for example, that was usually a design consideration. Arrows, elevation, spells, a challenge. Coom doesn't feel very designed at times. And I wasn't kidding about unwinnable scenarios. Unless you're willing to use the Plume to kill your friends, some of these missions are, played straight, legitimately RNG based. This one NPC will walk directly into her death. Constantly, unless you abuse skills you likely won't have, or you use the Plume. Now, FFT does this too. Glass houses. I hear you, but to be fair, it happens at least twice in Coom. But fine, it's a different game, doing its own thing. And the design isn't anti-fun all of the time. Sometimes it's extremely funny. What's with the Plume? Using it ensures a unit will die at the end of a mission, but it also powers up that unit to truly godly power levels, making them superhuman. You can practically solo levels using it. I think that's just hilarious from a design standpoint. Like, first and foremost, this is a tactical game, but if you don't want to engage with those tactics, or can't because the design is too sharp for your first run of the game, well, just burn up one of your friend's souls. Had a heartfelt moment or saved their life? Who cares? They're just tools at your disposal! Like, you're made to do this, and encouraged to if you want to see every ending. Especially the good ending. I'm thinking that might be why the game ain't all that popular. Now remember, Coom is very dark. Wylfred is a broody boy, so you're not just trying to defeat your enemies, you have to drop the base, rack up the dam, overkill them into oblivion, and skull their corpses. God. Sorry, I'm trying to do a thing. Just you. You don't just want to win, you need to deal excessive damage. Overkill enemies, which makes sense. Valkyrie Profile was always about stacking hella combos and dropping fat specials. It's a great thematic way to work with pre-established mechanics, alongside a newfound narrative conceit. But you do this to gain sin points. Sin points. Mind-blowing. Once you're the sinningest boy, the person who gave you the Plume, Hell, the Queen of Niflheim, the underworld, or at least Hell's confidant anyway, will give you little gifts. Now, isn't that precious? Valkyrie Profile games always have multiple endings, and that all ties directly into Plume usage. If you're on a fresh save, you're getting the bad ending, barring use of a guide or other knowledge. Medium ending at best. This is where the ending chart comes in handy. Basically, Coom is split into 3 major routes that determine what characters you encounter and recruit at all. And it's not a big number. That first run squad is sparse. You'll be able to choose at the first diverging path, which will lead into an easy, normal, or hard fight, with literally zero indication, by the way. But after that battle, you're on a train track that branches based on plume usage. You can actually game over by consuming all of your party members and be forced to restart your playthrough. It's wild. That sounds fine and all, but 2 playthroughs is something like a 30-hour commitment, and the game's not overly beautiful or enjoyable enough to justify it for most people. The character designs are neat. Some of their personalities are really compelling. I love Gwendol here because he's basically the most jaded, horrible man on the planet.
I can't with this game. Look at that slide!
One thing Coom does surprisingly well is writing. I don't think the story itself, a flawed and fairly strained quest for revenge on a lesser deity literally everyone accepts as good just because life sucks and poverty is a state of being. I don't think that works overly well. We all know Wylfred's gonna get his shit together eventually and turn his blade on Hell, the real antagonist from the intro. But the actual writing is like PSP FFT competent, that emulated Shakespeare stuff that's challenging for some people, but engrossing for others. Having read enough Billy Shakes in my time, I find it competent, and sometimes really impressive, actually emotive. It does more for the game than the visuals and the gameplay, I'd say. And sometimes it carries over to the cutscenes as well. I didn't really groove with the second game's mellower tone. I mean, it's aesthetic, but there's very little edge to VP2. It's a way more pillowy narrative than you'd expect coming off the first entry, but Covenant came out swinging. This game's vile, cruel, sad, I live, love, laugh this stuff, dude. Profound human misery. We stand. Part of me wishes I could recommend this more. I mean, the credentials are inarguable. If you want to do a lot of stuff for a long time, power up over playthroughs, and basically take your little human goon squad to godly levels, sure, that's all there, with plenty of endings and side quests and things to do. It's a surprising amount of game for its size, and like any Valkyrie profile title, there's a bonus Seraphic Gate mode where you can select your squad and challenge the sick and twisted designers who masterminded it. The real conflict I'm having is over its place in the Valkyrie profile lineage. On one hand, yo, video games! On the other, I don't know if it's good enough. So what does Coom do to earn its place? It emulates the other VP games in all kinds of ways: the aesthetics, the item names, the special attacks, and the fundamentals of combo combat. It isn't trying to be wildly different, just branch out slightly. I mean, the real functional difference is making your characters walk. You know, adding 3D space. I have a feeling longtime fans might be turned off by the handheldness of the game. It's not this premium main console piece, it's a side thing. And it's not written so well that it's life-changing, so really, what's the draw? Well, arguably, and only if you're interested in the lineage of the games, Coom has a greater narrative relevance to the original than the sequel. That first PS1 game was all about selling a broken, tired world on the brink of total collapse, and it dramatized the lives of mortals at the expense of the protagonist's screen time. That's a pretty powerful concept, and 2 didn't really build on it. It diverged and made basically everything about the protag and her friend group, and fleshes out the world. Coom picks up that old thread again with a mortal main character, a wide array of nobles and commoners, and it works pretty damn well as a war story, something that feels natural for Valkyrie profile because war threads its DNA. But it goes beyond that. Wylfred isn't a fantastic protagonist, not really, but he is subversive. He's melancholy, brooding, miserable, edgy, yes, but way more fun than early game Lenneth, way more interesting than Alicia for the most part, if only because he has the agency to do bad things. And he's directly looped into the conflict, not just the quest for revenge against Lenneth, but the human conflicts the games often gloss for their relative irrelevance to the gods. I wasn't always impressed, but some of the scenes are memorable, compelling drama. I will say that Coom fumbles the bag at times. Sure, Wylfred will act on occasion, but way too often he's stuck, standing stock still while 2 other characters kill each other, or go through trauma and he's there, 3 feet away, like... As for the endings, spoilers, by the way, if you care. The early ending has Freya flying down to Midgard and bopping you on the head. The bad ending, as you'd expect, involves a battle with Lenneth, but Wylfred ultimately fails to kill her soul, and Hel exacts the price of her aid by taking Wylfred to Niflheim. Everything was for nothing. you were a pawn. It sucks that the player should see this ending coming from the intro, but can't meaningfully avoid it on a first play. Kinda shoots the game in the foot, capping enjoyment like that. In the normal ending, Wylfred's dad confronts him because he's an Einherjar in Lenneth's service, and he ultimately sacrifices himself to save Will from eternal suffering in hell. Okay, not happy, decidedly miserable, but Will learns something. We witness a horrible tragedy. Not bad! The good ending, the hardest ending to get, naturally involves Will battling with a lesser deity to save his soul and set the world right. These are all kind of limp by comparison. Lenneth literally ascends to God of Creation status in one, and Alicia becomes the strongest being in the universe at one point. Will's just the guy with a magic feather and anime moves. It tries to cap off the political B-plot that runs through the game, which is easily the more compelling story, but it ultimately steps aside so Will, who's deeply embroiled in all of it, can cleanly and safely extricate himself from the good stuff to do the stuff the plot demands. In that sense, the ending doesn't really matter. The real drama of lives lived in Midgard is always unfolding and wraps before the final battle. Will's fate is a footnote in a much grander painting ultimately left neglected. But Coom still takes time to show how his life, and the lives of his mother and sister, pan out after the quest. It's the kind of story that feels genuinely like it could have used a little less direct godly presence and more guidance from unseen forces. It could have been really compelling in a mysterious way that wasn't so definitive with its good and evil axes. A human story about fate and how the very powers Will seeks to destroy aid him in unseen ways until the truth is cryptically revealed. But now I'm writing fanfiction about a game that doesn't exist. I guess that means Covenant actually got me a little, huh? In the end, Coom lacks the raw quality of 1 and the scope of 2, but it's a game that goes in a couple of tiny squares and works. What more can you ask for? Hey, it's KBash. Huge thanks goes out to my $4 patrons. Check them out. Beautiful. And double special thanks goes to my extra generous patrons who are Adam Welch, Alpha 42, Allsnaps, Arch, Azura, Axinade, Audra, Bear Skeleton, Basement Dweller, Bearkeeper, Easy Soul, Ben M, Bing Bing Doodoo Oingo Boingo Time, Blake Against the Machine, Boha, Boom Dead, Brios, Brianna Woo, British Gooch, Cal, Can I Cuss on Captain here? Blasted, Captain Wade, C-Dub, Caesar T, Chiefy Black, Cordit, Chris Bromo, Cody Golden, Couch Moba, Corgi the Lad, Trader, Chrono 19D, CW Glassworks, Cynical, Daddy Dago, Dondium, Danny Lavelle, Danny Pangos, Dakota Storm Jones, Steak, Swaggy David Back, Castillo, Dara, Dakota, Dennis Amaya, Diablo, Dingus Back, Doug Prince, Dr. Cullen PhD, YesChabano.com, Dylan Coffee, 8-Bit Elias, Elpio, Elsa, Emperor Pickle, Eric Monticello, Aesthetico, Everstone Isle, Nar, Fupa Saiyan, Frankenstick, Frisky Nippler, Seeker, 9Cat, Goose 6112, Gray, the Darkest Black, Corey, Gucci Plant, Asi Ibrahim Tanyurga, Hatsune Miku's Crackhouse, Beeman, Game and Station, X-Max, Horn Tiger, Huey. I'm supporting KBash just because I wanted to make this part of the video longer. Ingenious Clown, I punched a sandwich, Irrational, Irradiated Cherries, Dice Kyle, It's not bad, It's Time to Sue, It's not good, Ivy Ruth Langley, Jacob, James, Jason Lasky, Jaden, Jadaeus, JK Hedgehog, John Bo the Joker, Joke Frog, Jordan Joyner, Julian My Julian, Keegan Too Cool, Kata Snap, King Kuma, Clock Crated, Crazy Dark Chocolate, Kumi, Heist, Kyle, KZ Excellent, Lady Dentalian, Lady Weed, Latrix, Laundry Mom, Lego Sid, Lethal Nibbles, Little Big Trouble, Loathsome Dung Eater, Low Fat Moger, Lucas Boyd, Lucky McSmucky, Mac James, Magical Madman, Mara Ganger, Marcules, Mugio, Maximilian Wolfgang Niver, Mike DeVere, Milky Moo Official, Monochrome Only, Modi, Mr. Dodongo, Mr. Whiskey 282, Mr. Yeety Dabface McYoinkbomb, Nyranu, Nito Torpedo, Nico Puzzle Rat, Norian Daridius, Not Nobel, Nuggy, Old Burgle, Old Man Cranberry, Omni Nerd Zero, Omni LK, Plant, Pandemic Cowboy, Pinata, PBK, PK Gaming, Pontus Reddin, Popular Hitman, Potato Gaming HD, Prismatic Dan, Fractal and Pals, Quasar McDougal, Quillworth, Quinn, Reasonable Willow, Reggie Rodriguez, Renteca Bond, Ricochet Frame, Relay, Roy Londo, Brian Maury Brooks, Siren Smells Good, Salty Smasher, Scribe Slendy, Sakai no Award, Shinigami, Silver Bear 909, God! Sleepy Wabbit, Sock'em Bopper, Suckdolager, Space Lizard, Spooky Grimalkin, Squidged, Squishword, Star Night Sky, Streetums, Sublime Cataclysm, Super Sandwich Guy, Harvold's Quest, Shorn Chubbington, The Big Bubby, The Clown Prince of Cringe, The Digital Dutchman, The Good Lord has blessed me, hallelujah! The Green Loki, The Peacemaker Pyro, The Salt Knight, Dick Mystic, Thrips Heart, Tiggles McGuffin, Tim Lobster, Timid the Writer, Turtle Play, Travis Edwards, Whittle Chungus, Ty Guy 9001, Valenris, Venom, Vice Puck, viewers like you.
Vic.
Waposa.
Weeb Trash.
Waylon.
Where am I? Help!
Widgie. Winter Solstice.
TV.
Zanny Tanner.
Yashichi.
Yate Kundo. Your mom, Winky Face.
Zachary Livesey.
Zachary Z.
Zanasso.
Zane the Impure.
Zane the Pure.
Zed Slayer Gamer.
Zero Salazar.
Sylvan Ray.
Zenova.
Cyberbunk. If you'd like to help support the show, unlock new long-form projects, and help me keep improving, check out my Patreon. We got lots more videos in store. Stay tuned for more. KBash out.